All right, welcome back to JM Football. We're doing another divisional preview. We did the AFC North last time. Now we're going to the NFC. We're doing the NFC North. And Dalton, I think this is the closest division to each other in terms of 1 to 4. Like, hey, AFC North, pretty damn good, but there's that fourth team straggler in the Cleveland Browns that they're going to be competing for whatever the best quarterback is for next year's draft. But Lions, Packers, Vikings, and Bears, oh my. From 1 to 4, I think they're the tightest, and I think this is the division with the most compelling, I don't want to say storylines, but I think it's the most compelling division in the game of football. How you doing?
And I'm doing great, but dude, like when we look back to this NFC North, it was a bloodbath last year. Even the Bears came off to a hot start prior to their bye week, but the biggest thing that really stood out for this entire NFC North, they finished the regular season with a .662 winning percentage. Very, very high. That's the highest winning percentage by any division in NFL history. Damn. That's how competitive this division was last year, and I fully expect it to be even more competitive if the Bears can pick it up, which we will talk about later.
Yeah, and especially I think if one team maybe takes a step back, and I don't even mean to say that as a slight to them.
Right.
Because we're going to start off with the Lions in the city of, I'm going to try it, ready?
3, 2, 1.
Detroit.
Serviceable.
I have a hard time with that city. I usually say Detroit.
Better than how you say Indianapolis.
So Lions, 15-2, they finished last year. Kick-ass 15-2. Yep. They lost to the Commanders in the divisional round, 45-31. A lot of those games towards the end of the year were looking like barn burners, and even hearing Dan Campbell talking in that quarterback series, basically being like, yeah, we know the defense is going to be shit. Offense, we're going to need you to carry us. And that's kind of how, especially the back end of their season, had to look for the Lions to be successful and to win. They had a bunch of injuries that really knocked them out on the defensive side of the ball as the season went on. They finished last year 3rd in offensive EPA per play, 3rd in EPA per dropback, 5th in EPA per rush. Defensively, I was surprised to see that the numbers, despite ending the year off weak, they were 12th in defensive EPA per play, 6th against the pass, and then 12th against the run. Dalton, I mentioned that this team kicked ass, and that's what they've done. That's what they did last year, winning 15 games. They could do whatever they want offensively, whether that be throwing the ball, however, wherever they want, and especially they can run the ball however and wherever they want and with whoever they want. And, I mean, it's not sexy to start off by talking about the offensive line, but the reason why I think they could do everything that they want offensively, it is because of the offensive line that they had last year. Now, it looks different this year, but it still is a very good unit that's headlined by 2 very good tackles.
Yeah, I mean, Penei Sewell, obviously one of the best, if not the best, right tackle in football. Dude, he's an absolute stud. Taylor Decker, who's coming back from injury, so that's going to be the biggest question if he's healthy coming into week 1. If he's there, like you said, this tackle unit's great. I think the biggest question mark with that offensive line is going to be the retirement of Frank Ragnow. It kind of came out of the blue. So Graham Glasgow, who is, I believe, turning 33 or is 33.
Yeah, their whole interior is a big question mark for me.
Mahogany, it's Glasgow, and then they have the rookie.
Tate Ratledge from the University of Georgia. I mean, really embraces that dirtbag mentality. Strong dude, drafted in the 2nd round, maybe a little high, but I mean, if you're the Lions, and I think one of the criticisms that you could have from this Lions draft class is that they fully didn't draft for quote unquote need in a draft that was so pass rusher, edge rusher heavy. They didn't really grab one, and they let who did they let walk from? Zadarius Smith.
When they got him.
When they traded for him. He had 1 year left on his deal. I thought maybe they would keep him. They did not. So whatever's going to happen with that interior, it's unclear now. I know Tate Ratledge, they're maybe thinking that.
A fantastic name, by the way.
They're thinking that he's going to be center. Sure. And then Graham Glasgow is going to slide over at guard. But Christian Mahogany, like a young, athletic, he was from Boston College, a day 3 pick. I'm glad that he kind of slid to day 3 in that 2024 draft because he's a raw prospect, but I was also really glad to see him go to the Lions, as in, like, you guys know how to form up those offensive linemen. That those linemen, we know that they can kick ass. And Mahogany can evolve into that. But there's so many questions kind of at one time. The good thing is that they have bookend tackles that are like they're going to handle their business.
Yeah,
we know that. And that's the good thing that they have going for them.
I will say for this line, as you alluded to, a lot of questions. I think my biggest question for the Detroit Lions is their identity in terms of the coordinators now, because you lose both Ben Johnson to within your division for the Chicago Bears as head coach. Aaron Glenn goes to the Jets, your former defensive coordinator. Now you have Kelvin Shepard as your new defensive coordinator and John Morton as your offensive coordinator. I am very curious to see how the offense looks, because we know how Ben Johnson did last year. Fantastic job, first in points per game, first in first downs as well. Jared Goff career high 37 touchdowns, which made him 5th in MVP voting last year. The rushing game is going to be electric with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, Sonic and Knuckles. I love that nickname for the backfield too. But very curious how John Morton uses the offense. Obviously, the offensive line, as we've talked about, there's going to be some question marks within the interior. Health for Taylor Decker. Are we going to see more Jahmyr Gibbs? Is he the 1A now to Montgomery's 1B? Because when Jahmyr was, the 1A, when Monty went down last year with that knee injury, he was very effective still. And I know there was question marks because he was very efficient and he wasn't being used as a super, super bell cow kind of guy. But when he took on that role at the end of the year, he was electric. And obviously in fantasy football, he's one of the top 5 probably picks this year because of the upside that he brings to an offense.
Yeah. Now for me, Dalt, they win 15 games last year, as we said.
Yeah.
I first off, I don't think they're going to be able to repeat that.
I agree.
That's not being like you're a Lions hater. No. Dude, that's just it's really tough to do. That'll be really, really tough to do, right? Mm-hmm. Their defense also forced a good amount of turnovers, which helps, increase your floor too, as a defense and as a unit. Really, a lot of these, like Vikings did a really good job forcing turnovers. We know the Bears can maybe do that too. So all these defenses are solid. All these teams are solid in this NFC North. So as the rest of those teams in the NFC North come up, the Lions also have a really hard schedule. Really, really hard schedule this year.
Yep.
I think it's the 3rd hardest. According to Warren Sharps, I think the Giants have the hardest. It's the Browns 2nd and the Lions 3rd, according to Warren Sharp.
But the biggest thing within that schedule, it's the road schedule specifically, because here's who they got.
They played a bunch of indoor games last year. That's why Jared Goff able to have MVP numbers.
But they play the Packers, Ravens, Bengals, Chiefs, Commanders, Eagles, Rams, Vikings, and then the Bears.
Yeah.
Like all those teams, and you're expecting the Bears to be better too. So all those teams, much talent coming from those 9 teams.
Right. So for me, it's not can they repeat what they did last year, because I don't think they're going to be able to. But can it still be around the range of 11 to 12, which I still
think it could be.
I still think it could be, but with the change in new offense, new defense so much, I'm not so worried about that. I didn't think Aaron Glenn was like this mastermind defensive guy. I almost would have rather them go outside the building to get their new DC, but it's worked for them. The efficiency numbers haven't been that bad for them over the last couple of years. So former linebacker coach, former linebacker himself, drafted by the Bills, former Giant, former a bunch of other teams too. Kelvin Shepard is the new defensive coordinator, so it seems like they're almost gonna, copy and paste same language and same scheme and same practices and things like that.
And honestly, sometimes, Penik, it's just the continuity, right? Like,
sometimes
you do not want change. If you've built something that's homegrown thing, you keep it, and it's effective.
But with the new offensive coordinator, I mean, this is what Jared Goff had to say about John Morton this spring. Some of it's changing, some of it's remaining the same. The biggest challenge is just getting on the same page with what we like and what we're constantly working through that. And after so many years and so many practices and so many games of, I think you saw Jared Goff and Ben Johnson just being able to just get each other last year. And the Lions, what they were able to do, it was such a joy watching them, because it got to a point where they just started fucking around. And it would work with the laterals, and we're gonna have
intentional fumble.
Penik. So but I'm gonna trip. Seeing that quarterback work, I remember doing a short on that. I'm like, did Jared Goff intentionally trip? And seeing a quarterback, it's like, yeah, he did.
He definitely did.
That. I mean, a bunch of these teams are just practicing. Oh my God, we just got to be able to block. We just got to be able to operate basic offense, and these teams can't do it. Meanwhile, the Lions are over here being like, hey, can we fucking fumble the ball before we throw it to a wide open Sam Laporta? So that's where it's a shame they really couldn't get it done last year, because it's gonna be harder this year.
Much harder as compared to last year.
Even if John Morton and Goff and the offense, it's clicking and it's still good, there could be like a certain pivotal moment. There could be a certain pivotal play where Goff may not fully that's not something that Ben would have done, or like that's not a play call that I'm really going to. And John Morton may have a different tendency, even though there was, he was a senior offensive, John Morton was a senior offensive assistant for the Lions in 2022. So him and Dan Campbell that's where they did intersect. And I think they might have intersected too with the Saints, as John Morton was a wide receiver coach and Dan Campbell was the tight end coach / assistant head coach. So they definitely know each other. And Goff said there's some things remaining the same, some not.
For me, Penik, I think like X factor wise, going back to the defense real quick, it's gonna be Hutchinson because how effective him being hurt. Penik, how many sacks do you think he had last year? Played 5 games.
It was 7.5, right?
He was 7.5 on the money.
He was going to break the record. We were going to see. I'm interrupting you, but we were going to see one of the best seasons ever from any player in NFL history if Aiden Hutchinson was able to finish that season.
1,000% completely agree. And that's my point. He was the first domino to fall within the Lions defense front seven, getting banged up big time. And obviously he was their most effective player, one of the best pass rushers in the game. And I'm so happy you said that because I completely agree. He was not even sniffing 20. He was on the road to 20. He looked very good that he was going to do it. 7.5 sacks in 5 games. He was definitely on pace. But I think if they can get him back for a full 17, that completely changes the identity of the defense back to form being that elite defense that it could have been last year if injuries didn't happen.
Yeah, I have whoever's at center, whether that be Glasgow or Tate Ratledge as the X factor.
Okay,
because
makes sense.
You had a center in Ragnow who was just the best in the game for so many years. And again, what made the Lions offense so special these last few years is that their offensive line it allowed them to do whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. And it's just going to get, I think, a little bit harder this year. Not that it won't be good. I still think it'll be good, dynamic. There's Amon-Ra St. Brown. They really unlocked Jamison Williams. They were really able to unlock utilizing heavy personnel and then running play action out of that heavy personnel. And then you start to really confuse defenses. And if they're able to continue to run the ball too, hey, the NFL old heads say that's what makes play action so much more effective. So they're going to be able to do all of that, right? The over-under for them is 10.5. That seems like there are other teams that have higher. I still think I'm not betting this, by the way. Like over-under, it's a betting line. I'm not betting this because the line it's a very tough to predict with the schedule and with their changes. Mm-hmm. I'm still going over, though, if I had to pick one.
I would, too, because, I don't think this team is a fall from grace from 15 to 9 wins or even 10 wins. I think, granted, this NFC North is very competitive. I think Detroit is still cream above the top. What is it the saying?
Cream of the crop.
Cream of the crop rises to the top.
Right.
Make it drop. No, that part's not part of it. I just think the Lions are still the number 1 team in this division. Even with all these changes, there's going to be a lot of adversity, but we're really going to see what Dan Campbell and this Detroit Lions team is made of.
They win the division?
Yes. I say that inconfidently.
I say no.
You say no.
And I'm very confident on that.
Okay.
But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
And it's not the Minnesota Vikings because the Vikings last year finished 14-3. They lost the wild card round to the Los Angeles Rams by a score of 27-9. Kind of got their ass kicked a little bit.
Yeah.
But last year they were 14th in offensive EPA per play, kind of low. It's because they didn't really run the ball that well. They were 22nd in EPA per rush, and they were 11th in EPA per drop back. But the defense, though, is where they showed up. And really, I know the main story last year was Sam Darnold and the quarterback, and that's what everybody's going to talk about. But Brian Flores' defense kicked ass last year. Second in defensive EPA per play overall. They were second against the pass, and they were number 1 against the rush. And Dalton, it feels like this roster just got better on both sides of the ball, especially investing in O-line and D-line and what works in the NFL when you invest in O-line and D-line, and also, more importantly, when you get it right, and it feels like they're getting it right.
Dude, I'm excited about the Vikings because we saw Kevin O'Connell has become the quarterback whisperer, basically.
Yeah.
Has been one of those guys. Sure, he comes from the Sean McVay tree, and Sean McVay gets his flowers, deserves his flowers, 1,000%. Learns from him with the Rams. O'Connell, man, like having Sam Darnold, his first season with over 3,100 passing yards and 20 touchdowns, Sam Darnold threw for 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns. Like the minimum was so much lower, and he completely excelled that. And now, which we're going to get to, my biggest question mark, because I think this roster is constructed perfectly. What it really comes down to is J.J. McCarthy. What are you going to get from the quarterback position, right? Because we saw what Sam Darnold did, the adjustments made in Sam Darnold's career to have him basically revive himself in Minnesota, get that 3-year deal from Seattle this offseason. J.J. McCarthy coming off the knee injury, missing the entire 2024 season. Now the starter, getting first-team reps. Justin Jefferson has said prior to him injuring his hamstring during training camp that, we're seeing some of the kinks being worked out early on, which is totally makes sense, totally fine. That's normal. This is basically his rookie season. You're going to hear that a lot from us, from other media sources, that just as J.J. McCarthy's rookie season, basically his redshirt season. And the kinks will be worked out. I love Penik. They get Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, and Donovan Jackson just beefing up that interior offensive line, which is what they really needed to do. Because, quite frankly, we kind of saw it late in the season where Sam Darnold was having his struggles. It was the interior pass rush
their
coming in.
Their interior has been awful for years.
The Vikings schedule last year, they won 5 games in a row. They started year 5-0, had their bye week, lost the next 2 games versus the Lions and Rams. They won 9 in a row, and then lost their next 2 games versus, you guessed it, the Lions and Rams. So why the Lions and Rams won those games, Justin, was because they have great interior pressure, beating those offensive linemen of the Minnesota Vikings, especially like the Garrett Bradburys of the world, and caused havoc against Sam Darnold. That playoff game, I remember that on ESPN. I was like, Sam Darnold was running for his life. Yeah. He wished he was seeing ghosts because he's seeing all these guys in his face. And I think they realized that Kwesi, I think, in that front office in Minnesota is one of the best in the league. They saw the need, addressed it, and I think that's really going to help J.J. McCarthy out.
Their timeline as an organization is extremely interesting because I almost think they go into a year, and I don't know, if the NFL GMs, do you put a win total on the paper of this is what I expect us to get or this is what I think we're going to get? But I'm sure you have an idea, right? And I'm sure these last couple of years, they've thought, all right, well, we're going to start this rebuild. We're a new regime, and we're going to start this process, right? And we know that we have Kirk Cousins, and we'll just see what happens. Then they win 13 games. Last year, then even that second year, right? They go 7-10. They do the smart decision of not extending Kirk Cousins further. They finish 7-10, right? Then you see the Falcons winds up giving Kirk all that money, and now they're really paying for that physically and metaphorically. So, that 7-10 year, they kind of had an option of, okay, well, what are we going to do at quarterback? Are we going to continue to invest in the older guy because it's safe, or are we going to do something that's a little bit more bold? So even going into last year, where, they probably don't expect much, right? But then they win 14 games. So the timeline and what this organization has been able to accomplish is pretty crazy, and it's pretty wild. Where that's what makes me think that, even if, I am not a J.J. McCarthy fan, but the second that he's drafted to the Minnesota Vikings, I'm like, well, he's going to be good.
Great spot.
He's going to be good because every quarterback wishes that they go there, because you even see what they were able to do with Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs, and it's like they survive and they go 7-10. So J.J. McCarthy, I had the questions on McCarthy, and it was almost the same thing on Darnold. When Darnold got to the playoffs is, can this guy be a quarterback that will take you over the top and in those big games and in those biggest moments? And that is the questions that I have with J.J. McCarthy. The biggest throws, oh shit, can he really lead a team and elevate a team? The questions on if McCarthy can lead a team that wins 8, 9, 10, 11 games per year with the Minnesota Vikings, that's where I think that they are probably going to finish this year anywhere between that 8 to 10, 11 wins, because that defense is such kick-ass. They've upgraded their offensive line, their defensive line. It seems like they draft really well. There's players that are coming into their own.
100%.
So, they're going to be good. It's honestly just a matter with McCarthy, like you said, how good are they going to be?
Is he your X factor? Because I think he's the obvious, dart X factor.
I try and go away from
Me too.
quarterback X factor.
But to be fair, he is one of the biggest question marks. I don't even think in the NFC North, but I think in football this season, J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings, will this marriage work? 14 games. Are they going to have a steep fall off from last year? I did go with a different X factor just for these ha-has, and it'll be a nice quick one. Christian Darrisaw's the biggest one, I think, just in terms of staying healthy.
He's got to stay healthy.
Never played a full season, played 7 games last year. He really is.
He's so good when he's healthy.
Very good left tackle. It's just he can't stay on the field. But
Donovan Jackson slides over to left tackle when he goes down?
If he gets hurt. Hopefully not. But my other X factor is Jordan Mason. May seem a little silly, but acquired from the 49ers this offseason. I think he's going to play a bigger role. There's even some rumblings early on that he might get an early share of the ball carrying opportunities early in the season. Aaron Jones just is turning 31 this season, I believe in December. He had, I think, consecutive 1,000-yard rushing seasons, Aaron Jones, but quite frankly, let's keep his legs healthy. You can use him in the passing game as an option for J.J. McCarthy if need be, but let Jordan Mason run the ball against the box on early downs, be effective, and help share the load with Aaron Jones.
Yeah. Now, not everybody can be over, Dalt, but
What's the over-under?
For the over-under for the Vikings is 8.5. And I want to go over.
Well, it's funny because we can't go over on all these teams, but maybe there's a division where we go under on all these teams.
Maybe there's a division where we go under.
But
didn't they kind of all go over last year?
Basically, probably the Bears. Oh, and heck, maybe they even did too. But I think I am going to go. I had it written down as over, and you're kind of scaring me to not doing it.
Why am I scared? What have I said that has scared you?
Well, because no teams can be the over. Not all teams can be the over.
Right.
I am going to take the over. I just think I'm worried about J.J. McCarthy, of course, his question marks about him coming in as a starter. But quite frankly, I think Kevin O'Connell and what they've built in Minnesota, teaching offense and getting the X's and O's and getting these guys ready to play football. I think what they did with Sam Darnold, and no disrespect to Sam Darnold whatsoever, they basically revived his career. And I think if they can do that for a guy who, quote unquote, was seeing ghosts, which is probably one of my favorite sayings in NFL history, I think they can get a national champion to play at an NFL caliber level.
Yeah. Jonathan Allen's my X factor for
Love
them,
that.
too. If he can get back to playing dominating like he did in Washington,
Be Jonathan Allen.
I mean that's a scary front of Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel. I don't really love Javon Hargrave.
I do. You know what? I know he's after he got that big contract, he wasn't like super crazy, but Javon Hargrave, I think it was 2022, 2023.
Same thing. If he can
very
get back
good
to
year,
winning,
yeah.
If you got Jonathan Allen in 2022 and Javon Hargrave in 2022, you got a party.
And you know what? Brian Flores defense, right? Like, again, we talk about that offense too, but Brian Flores, he sends the house. Yeah. You get these one-on-one opportunities. Go, go, go.
Yeah,
Let's get after the quarterback. If
he's going to start stacking the box and then bringing guys back on third down and just have, I mean, you now have a pass rush where you don't have to blitz that much.
Yeah.
But you could still show these looks and confuse quarterbacks and really cause some hell.
Yep.
Or you can bring everybody and then they hate it.
They do bring it a lot too.
All right, so let's move on to the team that, I don't know, man. I don't know. My Green Bay Packers.
Your Green Bay Packers.
My Green Bay Packers.
Whoa. Okay.
I think right now, like, of course you could pick a Super Bowl winner of the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Bills. Like, okay. Like, if you want to pick them to win a Super Bowl, okay. And that's a really good Super Bowl prediction. If you want a sexy / maybe not sexy Super Bowl prediction, a team that Super Bowl winner, and then also somebody to come out of the NFC, I think it's the Green Bay Packers.
Wow.
So the Green Bay Packers last year, they finished with a record of 11-6, lost in the wild card round to the Eagles by a score of 22-10. Also a team that got kind of riddled with injuries towards the end, and Jordan Love was the guy that was suffering injuries kind of all throughout the season, even though what he looked like after the Packers bye week looked a hell of a lot better than before the bye week. We'll talk about those splits. The Packers last year were 8th in offensive EPA per play. They were 7th in passing, 9th in running and rushing. They were 4th in defensive EPA per play last year, 4th in EPA per dropback, 8th in EPA per rush. We haven't done all the divisions so far, Dalt, but even compared to the Lions, that is the most balanced that we've seen a football team in terms of, like, there's not this huge discrepancy against passing and rushing and on offensively or defensively. They were 6th in points per drive offensively, and they were 6th in points per drive on the defensive side of the ball. They forced a lot of turnovers themselves. Xavier McKinney was a huge slam dunk ad for them. So yeah,
where did he come from?
The Giants.
Okay.
Let's just talk about this too. So Jordan Love missed time last year, some lower body injuries.
Ankle,
They thought that there was a point where maybe even tore his ACL, but it was an MCL, and then it was a groin injury as well. So pre-bye, not very good in, let's just use EPA per attempt. He was 21st in EPA per attempt before the bye. After the bye, he goes up to number 5. When starts to get healthy, starts to get his kind of legs under him, as the season goes on, he gets better. And I'll tell you why I like Jordan Love, and then I want to hear your opinion on it. I like Jordan Love, and I was talking about this as, remember they go toe-to-toe? It was a primetime game against the Vikings in Detroit, where they go like toe-to-toe with them.
Wait. Vikings, Detroit.
I'm sorry. They go toe-to-toe with the Lions in Detroit primetime game last year.
Usually I have a good feel. I'm trying to remember. I don't.
Love looks really, I mean, they lose the game, and it was one of those shootout games.
Was it like a 34-31?
It was one of those shootout games. And I still walk away from that game being like, damn, like if there's a quarterback in the NFC that I want, it's Jordan Love, because what you need in the postseason is, even if there's going to be a guy that makes a mistake, okay, he makes a mistake. But what could also win you a football game is a quarterback that has the balls to put the ball in spots that it needs to get a big play, to move the chains on a 3rd and 9. Let's get that 12-yard gain, because the windows are going to be small, and the windows are going to be smaller in the postseason when the defenses are better.
Yeah.
You can't be shy. You can't just check it down. And Jordan Love is not going to do that. So Jordan Love got better as the season went on, and if they, as a team, were able to stay healthy, I think that they could have gone on a little bit of a run. And this is also a team, if you look up and down in this division, in this highly competitive NFC North, this is a team that has stayed together, right?
Not much change. Absolutely.
Offensively, they're basically together. They add Aaron Banks on the offensive line, who I think is a bad pass blocker, but good run blocker.
Right.
Defensively, the line is okay, but I think everywhere else is pretty damn good. We know that they invested a lot of resources in that defense, especially numbers-wise. So, like, this is a team with continuity. This is a team where I don't think they're flashy in any area, but are they weak in any area? I think absolutely not.
Yeah, Penik, I think that's the biggest thing. We talk about continuity. They have 10 of their 11 guys on the defensive side of the ball returning. Only guy not returning, Jair Alexander, who, quite frankly, another guy who couldn't really stay on the field.
And they bring in Nate Hobbs.
And Nate Hobbs comes in, slides in. But yeah, man, if we want to see the Green Bay Packers be the most successful team in the NFC North, Jordan Love is obviously the biggest question mark, because we want to see him go back to that 2023 form. 32 touchdowns, 11 picks, 4,200 yards basically. Last year takes that step back because of all of those injuries. Dude, that week 1 game, I don't think we talk about it enough. That Friday night game versus Philly, where it's a neck-and-neck game the entire way. Philly ends up winning, but Jordan Love gets hurt late in that game, which is basically the snowball effect of his injuries happening in 2024. So I want to see Love bounce back. And it wasn't even a bad season. It was just an injury-riddled season. So hopefully if he can stay healthy, they're going to be in a really good spot. And you mentioned the points per drive. It's funny. One of the stats that I highlighted myself, I'm going back to more of that basic, basic stats, not as much. I'm an old school guy, Penik. No, I'm not. Complete lie. But they rank top 5 in both yards per game and yards per game allowed. So offensively and defensively, they were very successful. And I think the biggest thing is sometimes we have some regrets, right? In a season, I know for myself as a fan of the Colts, you're a fan of the Giants, we look back on some of these games, what could have been. 4 of their 6 losses last year were by 3 points or less.
Brutal.
5 of their 6 losses were by 5 points or less. So they were not only winning games, but they're playing competitive games for the entire season last year. And that's with a quarterback who wasn't healthy. And the biggest thing, Penik, we talk about the onslaught of the NFC North. The Green Bay Packers last year were 1-5 within the division. You can't
do that.
If you want to be successful within your own division, guess what, sweetheart? You have to beat the teams within your division. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing for Green Bay is A, Jordan Love, be back to 2023, be healthy. B, just beat your teams within the division, because if you win half of those games, guess what? Instead of being 11-6, you're now 13-3, and you could have won the NFC North crown.
Yeah.
13-4, excuse me.
Now, this is where it gets a little tough. I mean, obviously, there was a team that finished with 15 wins, 13 wins, 11 wins last year, right? So, I mean, okay, these teams can do it again, right? Yeah. So, if we go over with at least 3 of these teams, it may not be a stretch since they did it last year, and they've all gotten better in certain areas, right? I'm going over for the Packers. Their over-under right now is at 9.5.
I hammer the over.
I'm going over.
I think the biggest thing, Penik, is that we talked about it, that A, they did it last year with Jordan Love not being hurt.
Right.
And B, they're bringing all their guys back. And I think there's going to be some positive regression within that division, because I do think they're going to beat Minnesota at least once, at least in Lambeau. And they might sweep them depending on how J.J. McCarthy looks.
Right. There's been other facets. I know I just said other teams got better, but there have been certain elements where you can look at it right now and say, like, oh, the Lions' offensive line may have got worse. They lost their coordinator. So I feel like there's an opportunity, especially with the Packers kind of running it back. And if they get better injury luck, they also they did have good injury luck on the offensive line.
That's good shit. I was going to mention that too.
Both of their tackles logged over 1,000 snaps last year. The same amount of snaps logged by both of those tackles. Zach Tom gets a nice contract extension
4 for 88
as he deserves.
Yeah.
I mean, their left tackle. Hey, let's just draft a guy in the 7th round, and he eventually will turn good for us as a capable tackle. So the over/under is 9.5. I have over, and I think the Packers are winning the division this year. And I don't don't know if I have this solidified now, but like I think I may pick them to be the representative coming out of the NFC.
And I love that, Penik, because this team is really good. You talked about the offensive line health. That would be huge. Last year, defensively, I think one of my favorite points is when we get late in games. Packers are winning games, but they're also losing close games. You know why? Because they didn't give up points in the fourth quarter. Allowed the fewest points in the fourth quarter last year. That Jeff Hafley defense, quite frankly, way better than the Joe Barry experience they had.
Yeah.
But for me, Penik, I think we talk about X factors too. Matthew Golden, first Packers wide receiver taken in the first round since 2002.
Yeah, I didn't love that pick.
Neither did I, but we have to see what this kid turns into, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Green Bay fans for years with Rodgers and Brett Favre were saying, get us a receiver, get us a first-round receiver, get us a first-round receiver. And they do it when Rodgers is gone and Jordan Love needs a receiver. No receiver has exceeded over 850 yards outside of Devontae Adams in 2021, the last time they won the division. Since 2016, Jordy Nelson. It is almost, if you take away Devontae Adams, which I know you're taking Devontae Adams away, they haven't had a real productive receiver outside of him in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And so you draft Matthew Golden first, and hopefully he's that guy that clicks in that receiver room, because they have a lot of B or C guys. They don't have that A, and you hope if you're a Green Bay fan that Golden is the A guy.
On our lads, their depth chart, if you look, Rashawn Gary, first-round pick. Kenny Clark, first-round pick. Devontae Wyatt, first-round pick. Lucas Van Ness, first-round pick. Quay Walker, first-round pick. Edgerrin Cooper, who I love, by the way, second-round pick. Edgerrin Cooper's a dog.
Yeah.
They need, especially the pass rush. Forget the off-ball linebackers and Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper.
Yeah.
But they need, Rashawn Gary, good football player. Kenny Clark, good football player. But they need, like, the investments that they have on the defensive side of the ball. One of these guys needs to have an oh shit season. That's what you're waiting for. That's what you're waiting for. I mean, Van Ness has played like 40% of the snaps his first 2 seasons.
Right. That's the guy I think that you want to see more from, because he hasn't really had the opportunity to do so. He did play in all 17 games, but again, rotational guy. Doesn't play, is not on the field all the time.
So, yeah, that's an X factor for me. Well, I'll just say Lucas Van Ness. But, I mean, Devontae Wyatt, good football player. But if the Packers defensively, if we want to get to a point where we're really kicking ass, one of those guys needs to have like an oh shit season, like put the league on notice season. That would be cool for the Green Bay Packers. Last team that we're going to talk about, let's move over to the Bears of Chicago, one of my favorite American cities. Deep dish pizza is kind of just like lasagna. I'm sorry. They went 5-12 last year. They finished last in the NFC North, 4th in the NFC North. They missed the playoffs. It was kind of a mess last year. Maybe you shouldn't have kept Matt Eberflus. 26th in offensive EPA per play, 25th in EPA per dropback, 28th in EPA per rush, 13th in defensive EPA per play. We know that defense can be pretty damn good. 10th against the pass, 26th against the run. So you know what? They weren't that good against the run, but we know that secondary, that pass rush can be pretty decent, pretty good. Dalton, Philly.
Justin Penik.
The Bears, I think, have done one of the best jobs in the NFL this offseason in terms of transforming their team.
They're going to see their offensive line.
But it's led by what they really did with the offensive line. The big thing when Ben Johnson was hired, when we were doing Football Today and all the talking heads, I would say all the no ball talking heads,
Sure.
It's not just that Ben Johnson is going to come in here and snap his fingers and fix everything, but what does Ben Johnson need? Ben Johnson needs a kick-ass offensive line, just like we were talking about with the Detroit Lions.
It's not easy to do. It's not easy to do at all.
What did he do, and what has he at least tried to do this offseason with the Chicago Bears?
Joe Thuney.
Recreate a kick-ass offensive line.
Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman, getting all these guys. The offensive line has been beefed up in the interior. I did think they were going to do something with the tackles because, no offense to Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones. They haven't been those kick-ass guys that we thought.
We still believe in Darnell Wright.
We still do. I'm just saying he hasn't been that kick-ass guy we thought
Braxton
he could
Jones
be.
also isn't terrible, so...
Serviceable.
Serves.
Kick-ass? No.
But
that said... We praise Minnesota for what they did for the interior. Quite frankly, though, Chicago, A plus.
Yes.
Like, this is the best you could have done. Joe Thuney, an all-pro caliber player, acquiring him for a mid-round pick.
I could not believe
Shocking.
that.
And I understand the contract stuff, sure. But, it was very impressive for a team that had a lot of space. You have a quarterback on their rookie contract. Now, granted, the first overall pick. It's very impressive, man. I am excited for the Bears offense because the thing is Caleb Williams, right? I understand he gets some flack. I get it. But Penik, here's my trivia question. I know you love yourself some trivia.
Sure. We do a lot of that on the channel.
We do a lot of trivia. Bears quarterbacks to eclipse 3,500 passing yards in a season. Can you name any?
Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler did it 3 times. And that's the only one I think you'll get because Eric Kramer did it, I think, back in the 80s.
Sure.
Caleb Williams last year. So that is, I get it. Bears quarterbacks haven't had a good history, but quite frankly, Caleb Williams has shown some promise in his rookie year. And I think with Ben Johnson too, Penik, offensively, right? You got a kick-ass offensive line. Let's kick some ass on offense. They ranked 32nd on EPA per play, yards per play, third and out percentage on the first drive of games. Ben Johnson is one of the best script artists in football. I think that's going to be something that really changes this year for the Chicago Bears offense. And let's go. You gave Caleb the keys to the car. You got Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator. You have a great offensive line. You got some targets in Rome, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, Roschon in the running game. This offense could take a large step up for 2025.
And this is going to be the year that we figure it out with Caleb. Yep. Like I'm confident in saying that. There's some other quarterbacks where you're like, I don't know, maybe we got to wait, we got to see, and they got bad surroundings, bad this, bad that. I'm not saying that we need to see all Pro Bowl caliber play out of Caleb Williams this year, but we need to walk away from 2025 saying we're headed in the right direction and that this is heading in the right direction. And I really think that it can be it. Like, Caleb is, it's been 40 minutes. We got to move. Because the lights always turn out in the podcast studio.
That's the night when the lights went out.
So, like, Jake, our boss.
Who? Oh, Talking Jake.
Talking Jake.
I know who that is.
Talking Jake kind of, and I don't want to fully talk about his take without him fully being in here, but kind of been out on Caleb.
Yeah.
Right? Saying, maybe like Drake May a little bit better, kind of like Jaden Daniels a little bit better. And a lot of, he doesn't even, it's not even, what it comes down to him, it doesn't even come down to the whole crying fingernails thing, which a lot of people like to talk about. It was from his junior to senior year season, he got worse at USC. There were games that he lost, and the defense was bad at USC. And I think I'm on that side more. I'm on that side of, the defense was horrible, and Lane Kiffin, not Lane Kiffin, who was it? USC? The coach. Lincoln Riley was horrible. And but the coach is horrible. And then you transition to Shane Waldron as the offensive coordinator last year. That's horrible. And the timing with Caleb's footwork isn't matching the receivers breaking out of the routes. So there's a whole bunch of that shit that went wrong. Again, should have fired Matt Eberflus. Why are you going through your Matt Eberflus?
Hey, it's my guy Eberflus. He's a great coordinator for the Colts.
Why are you
head coach?
Why are you firing that guy?
Yeah.
But
lame duck head coach.
Now that there's the structure here with Ben Johnson, at least we know that he's going to call a good offense. If he's a leader of men, we will find out. Who's their defense coordinator that they got a really good one? Isn't it Dennis Allen? Didn't they get Dennis Allen?
I think they did.
Which is awesome. That's a slam dunk hire. As Ben Johnson, as we don't know if he's going to be a good leader of men. How can you be as a head coach? At least we know that there's a former head coach there and Dennis Allen that's going to run a good defensive scheme. And we already know that defense is good too. They've shown that they can be good too. I love that secondary. I love Gervon Dexter, Montez Sweat.
You love Jalen Johnson.
I love, Jalen Johnson's the best corner in the league outside of Pat Surtain. I love the safeties that they got going on. Kyler Gordon's awesome. Kevin Byard, I still think has something in the tank. So Jaquan Brisker from Penn, they're just up and down. There's talent on this defense, and it's good.
Right.
I even like Tyreek Stevenson, sans Hail Mary.
And listen, they have some guys on defense that are good. I think one of the biggest turnarounds for the Bears right now defensively is allowing the big play. As a former guy who worked in football, explosive plays can dictate a game. Bears allowed explosive plays against opposing offenses at a 6.7 clip. That's the fourth highest among all teams in the NFL. Yeah. Dennis Allen coming in, that's going to make a huge change to that defense. Yeah. They allowed there's a negative 92 point differential in the first half. One of the worst in football for a reason. They couldn't score early, and they were giving up these big plays early in games. I think they have a lot of talented players on the defensive side. And my X factor, thank you for asking, is rock me like a hurricane, Deo Adebagayo. I definitely can't say his last name. Never have, never will. Get him from the Colts. They signed him to a deal this year.
He's a 10-sack player.
Beef up that interior defensive line with Grady Jarrett and Deo. We've realized that Ryan Poles, who just got an extension this year, general manager for Chicago Bears.
He's been pretty lucky as a GM, more than good.
As you roll your eyes. Their mission statement this year has been to beef up both the offensive and defensive line, specifically on the interior.
Oh, that works in the NFL.
What the fuck was that?
That wasn't towards you.
Was that Ryan Poles?
No, that wasn't towards you. It's towards all these NFL teams that are now finally fucking figuring out that this is what you got to do to be good because, the Eagles have done it. Let's all try and do it. You mentioned explosive plays.
I did.
The magic with Caleb that wasn't there last year was the magic that he had in college, right?
Right.
That's my X factor this year. Can Caleb Williams get back to doing that? Oh, shit. Magic. Like, there's Caleb running around, throwing it deep to DJ Moore, throwing it deep to Romo Dunze, giving the guy a shot because we know that Dunze, the one thing that he can do is be the contested catch guy, right? We know that he can do that. And that's not a slight to Romo Dunze. Maybe it is.
It is. We just did the Minnesota Vikings, and you said, quote, quarterback should not be the X factor. 2 teams later, shocking news.
No. I didn't
quarterback
say
is now the X factor.
I didn't say Caleb Williams is the X factor. I said Caleb Williams getting back to doing some of the magic stuff that he did at why you fell in love with Caleb Williams.
Which player to do magic stuff?
Caleb Williams.
Oh, so he's the X factor. Shocking. Agenda. Penik, over-under time.
Yeah, over-under. The over-under for the Chicago Bears is 8.5. I think I'm going to go under.
Sorry.
Listen, compliment them and as we get excited, but somebody's got to be under.
Hey, we're their hype guys until we get to the over-under.
I think even 7-10 is not in a tough NFC North and a tough schedule. I mean, it's a tough schedule for all these teams because they got to fucking play each other. 7-10.
Not great.
You're finishing if you finish in last place in your division at 7-10, that's tough. That's tough.
You think it's tough, huh?
Yeah, I think they can win 7 games.
Try to tell you what's really funny. 2023, when Justin Fields kind of revived himself a little bit, and they had to make that big. Games? They finished 7-10, and they finished in last place in the NFC North.
Well, that may happen again.
And that could very well happen again because they made the improvements from last year and they won 5 games. I think they're a couple wins better from the previous season. But yeah, man, I think the Bears are just in a bad spot in terms of which division they're in football. Because if they're playing in the AFC South, there's a world they win that division.
Oh, every year, if you're an NFC team and you see the AFC South on your schedule, you get excited about what you can do that year. Shout out the 2022 Giants. All right, that's going to be it. That's the NFC North. We'll see you next time for another divisional preview.